Hey guys, it's Monday morning, the next day after I installed all the baffles in the ballast tank, and this is the last chance that I have to check the tank for any spots that I want to add more epoxy. And so just to recap, the ballast tank is from this bulkhead up to that bulkhead up there, and we put those two bulkheads in. We totally glassed the tank like one giant bathtub. So it's totally sealed with 10 ounces of glass and a bunch of epoxy. And then we installed the center part of bulkhead 4, and that part was pre-coated and sanded, so it was already sealed when we put it in. And the same goes for the longitudinal baffles here and here. And those were also pre-coated, but I had to do a little trimming on them to get them to fit properly when I installed them. So there was one edge that, didn't have any epoxy on it. So when I put these in, I coated that edge and then I glassed all the joints. But, I wanted to double check. The worst case scenario would be one of these parts got a little bit of water ingress over the years. And if you didn't let the tank dry out between uses, you could have some rot eventually. So you want to try to eliminate any chance of that happening. And so the last thing I'm doing this morning, I'm going to try to show you here, even though the camera is hard to hold. But there's these limber hole corners that you can't see in there, because they're behind. So this morning I'm coming in here and I've got a little mirror on a stick. And I'm going to try to show you what I've been doing. I've already been around them all, but I'll try to get you in position here. And then I stick the mirror behind there and you can get it angled. There we go. So if I angle it there, I can see the end stop of that plywood. And you can see that there is a little blob of thickened epoxy, which is exactly what I want. And there's one at the top too. And if I go back to the stern of the locker and I go to here, I'm looking for the same thing. I'm looking for a fillet, a little tiny fillet of epoxy. What I don't want to see is a crack. There's a good example. It's nice and smooth and glossy. I don't see any pinholes or cracks or anything. If I did, I would come in there with a little dab of thickened epoxy and I would just put it in there with my finger, and then I would go over it with some thin epoxy. And I'm probably going to brush those corners one more time this morning while it's still within the curing window, just to get one last coat. You don't want to get into a situation where you have to sand this ballast tank because there's a lot of tight spaces. So what I did was I sanded the whole tank after I did my first glassing before I put any of the baffles in. Then I put the baffles in and added the tape and did all my final coating at the same time. So all the baffles, taping and coating was done yesterday. So today I can put another coat on or add a little bit. But if I wait longer than today, this is kind of my last chance then I would have to sand. And this isn't an area where, there's places in the boat where you can save weight. This isn't really one of them. I slathered the epoxy, kind of messy job, trying to get the epoxy on the glass as fast as possible. You're bending over, it's hard on your back doing this spot. So I wasn't worried about doing a neat job. If there's runs of epoxy, I really didn't care. So that's about it. I just wanted to show you that little detail with the ballast tank. And so I'll hit the little corners up with another coat of thin epoxy and anywhere else that looks like it might need it. And then that's it for the ballast tank until I'm ready to put on my my cleats that will support the cockpit sole.